She had jaundice, just slightly. They said it was nothing to be concerned about. And then right before we were about to leave the hospital, she spit up blood. And I told the nurse, I was like, what? I've never heard of that before. You know, I've never heard of a baby spitting up blood. And she said, oh, it's from your amniotic fluid. Not a big deal. I was so concerned. I knew something was wrong. And so I kept asking about it. Nobody would listen. So they sent us home. She had a doctor's appointment the next day. And that whole night after we came home, she wouldn't eat. Wouldn't eat anything. She would not breastfeed. I couldn't get her to latch on anymore, and her little belly just seemed so swollen to me. And so when we went to the doctor the next day, he looked at her, said and they checked her jaundice levels, and they had risen to 15 at that point, which is not super high, but he was concerned. And it was super rainy, so I couldn't take her outside and get her any sunlight at all. It rained the entire week. The next day, she had another doctor's appointment to get her jaundice levels checked again. They had risen to 20. And so the doctor said that we had to be admitted back to the hospital to put her in the Billy bed overnight. And this was May the 5th. She was born May the 1st. This was May the 5th that we got put back in the hospital that night. And it was just supposed to be 24 hours, but the way that she'd been not eating and stuff, I kept telling my mom and Brandon, I was like, something doesn't feel right. Something is so wrong. It just didn't seem right. And I call it mother's intuition, whatever it was, I knew something was wrong. And so, I'm going to pause this because it's getting on my nerves. But I just knew something was wrong. Just to the hospital to put her under the Billy bed, and my husband and I got to stay in a room right next to her while she was under the Billy lights. She had the cool little shades on and everything that you see the kids have. It was super scary though at the same time, and looking back now, that was absolutely jaundice was the best case scenario of what happened. It was not a big deal compared to what happened the next 24 hours, but at that time it was very scary. But so whenever we got admitted that night, I went in to feed her, and the nurse said that she'd been really fussy and this and that. So I went in to feed her, and about halfway through her feeding, she just started vomiting green bile, and it was not like baby spit up, like it wasn't a small amount, it was projectile vomiting green bile all over the place, and it was obvious that something was not right. I looked at the nurse in sheer horror because I didn't know what had just happened. And the nurse looked at me, and I said, what just happened? Is she okay? Is that normal? And she looked me dead in the eyes and said, no, that's not normal. That's not normal at all. And so I freaked out, and of course I went and Googled what all the possible things that could mean, what it could mean, and scared myself to death. The doctor came in this was at like 4 a.m. The doctor came in at 8 a.m. the next morning and said that they were going to run tests on her. They did a CT of her abdomen, and he came in about an hour later and said that she had intestinal malrotation, which that means basically her intestines were twisted, cutting off blood supply. They were not in the same position that a normal person's intestines are, and they could not assess the extent of your bowel begins to die if there's no blood flow to it. So they couldn't tell me how, if any of her bowel had died, if none of her bowel had died, if all of it had died. they couldn't tell me that, and they said that she would have to be transported to a hospital about 45 minutes away, and that she would have to have surgery on her abdomen to put her intestines back where they should be, and that when they did the surgery that they would tell us then how much bowel she would lose. At that point he was pretty sure she'd lose some of her bowel. He said we're not sure if all of her bowel has died. He did tell us there's absolutely nothing we can do if all of her bowel died. That was a really scary thing to hear, but I'm not gonna cry. It was a really scary thing to hear, and so the ambulance came and transported her to the hospital 45 minutes away. And my husband, throughout all of this, he really remained strong for me, and I really don't want to cry on this video, but my husband really stayed strong for me, and I'll never have the words to tell him what it meant for him to just let me scream and cry and say this isn't fair. But he did break down one good time, and that was when they were wheeling her down the hospital, off the hallway of the hospital, to go put her in the ambulance to transport her. And I think it was a mixture of he just let it all build up, and then also he saw her with all the wires and IVs, and she had so many IVs in her. They had an IV in her head. I think it really hit him that it was real at that point, and he broke down at that point. But he lost it for a few minutes, and we just cried together, and it was over. My husband's not an emotional person. I am. And so he let it out, and he got it out, and he was real positive after that, and that's what I needed. But I knew he had to get it out. It was understandable. I had let it out enough for the both of us. But normally they have rooms where the parents can stay, but they were all full. The NICU was full of babies, full, and all the parents were staying there at the time, so we did not have a place to stay. So we had to make the drive, almost an hour drive there every day. So they told us that obviously she wasn't in any immediate danger at this exact point in time. She was stable and stuff, so they told us to just go and get some rest. It had been a super long day. This was late at night by the time we spoke to the NICU doctor. So we had went home and we got some rest. I got up bright and early the next morning. We got ready and headed to the hospital. And they called us as we were on our way to the hospital, and they said, so her situation has turned into an emergency situation, and they had to do emergency surgery. They were supposed to do her surgery later on in the day, but it became an emergent situation. I guess she started spitting up more, so they went ahead and took her into surgery while we're in the car on our way there. And so we got there. They said that we'd have to wait when we get there, that it would probably take a few hours. So when we got there, we sat in the waiting room. I was terrified. I could barely walk at this point because I was so full of fluid from delivery and stuff, and my preeclampsia, that I could barely walk. But at that, looking back now, I didn't even care about that at this point. But yeah, I was really swollen. But they did her surgery, and we got to the hospital, and it wasn't even like 30-45 minutes after we got to the hospital did they come out and call her name. And they pulled us back in this room, and I got terrified because when they put you in a little room, I've always thought that meant bad news. So the doctor put us in the room, and he came in, and I was of course so terrified and freaked out. And he told, he looked at me and he was like, everything went perfect. The surgery went so much better than he imagined. It went so much quicker than he imagined it being. I mean, the surgery, all in all, I think with our driving time and everything, maybe lasted like an hour, hour and a half tops. So it wasn't a long surgery at all. And then they said, the doctor looked at me and said, she didn't lose any of her bowel. And he was a little stunned that a baby had made it 6 days with her blood flow being cut off to her intestines and didn't lose not 1 inch of her bowel. None of it. It was a miracle. And Casey, you'll hear me probably say this a million times, but with everything that happened during my pregnancy, everything that happened when she was born and her surgery and everything, Casey is a miracle. There's a reason that Casey is here. I've always believed that, and I know that everybody believes that about their kids, but Casey has beat a lot of odds. And I just feel like there's a reason she's here. And it's just, I wasn't even supposed to be able to have her to begin with. And she made it. So, I can't, I'm gonna cry. This is getting emotional. And I don't want to cry because I make an ugly cry face. So I'm not gonna cry. I stayed in the NICU for about 3 weeks after that. They were pulling bile off her stomach. It was green bile to yellow bile to clear over a few weeks' time. And once it was clear, she got to move up to this, it's like a step up from the NICU. And then once she was there, we stayed overnight with her, and they fed her my breast milk that I'd been pumping like crazy. I pumped a lot. I had like 3 months worth of breast milk stored up in my freezer at home, plus the amount that I brought to the NICU for her to put in their fridge for whenever the bile did turn clear. It was a lot of breast milk, and I did not get a lot at one time. My body just didn't want to work with me. Yeah, but she stayed in the NICU for almost 3 weeks, and she couldn't eat the whole time she was in the NICU. She had to have IV nutrients, but she was not allowed to eat anything until the bile turned clear. So that was why I was able to store up so much breast milk for her within those weeks. And then when she was ready for it, and she was it's my husband calling. That was embarrassing. I really do need to wrap this up, but my husband he was calling because he got off work, so I had to talk to him, sorry. But I really do really need to wrap this up, so, where was I at? Oh yeah, she stayed in the NICU for 3 weeks after that, and she came home and she was perfectly fine ever since then. Yeah, it's been a very easy 4 years since that. Not perfect, but as far as health concerns, her health has been so perfect since then, and I'm very thankful and I'm very blessed for that, because I know it could have been a whole lot worse. I do know people who have had it so much worse than me, and I feel very blessed, and yeah, that was a big reason why I wanted to make this video recently, because a family member of mine I mean, who I grew up like, we were like sisters. We're very close in age, and we're very close. She just had a baby. It was about 3 weeks ago, May 20th, I'd say, when he was born, and he actually passed away when he was 2 days old. So, from complications from birth. So, I guess just watching her go through that and stuff has just made me very thankful, very, very blessed. I feel very blessed, and it's also very heartbreaking to watch somebody that you love go through that. I don't want to talk about that either. But yeah, so I am very sorry that I got like super emotional during this video, but I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and go ahead and you subscribe if you like what you're seeing. And I think I'm gonna do like a day in the life video here soon. I think that would be fun to do with Casey, because she's pretty interesting to watch all throughout the day. And I am sorry that she wasn't in this video that much. She's playing right now, so she wasn't into being in the video, I guess. But yeah, go ahead and subscribe and like the video, comment on if you want to see something. I am planning to do a video. My mom does have surgery on Friday. Long story with that, but I do plan on doing a video with her to and she's gonna tell, I guess, you know, all about her cancer and things like that. But yeah, that's coming up soon. But yeah, that's it for now, and thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye. Casey, say bye. You want to come say bye? Okay. Since you weren't in the video at all, come say bye. Say bye.
Bye.
Oh, Sophie's gonna say bye too. Sophie says bye too. Okay, bye.